Hello, this is your hurricane and severe weather update today. For today is July 26, 2011. What you're looking at right now is the Storm Prediction Center map right now to Norman, Oklahoma, showing that there is a storm risk today of severe thunderstorms over portions of extreme northern parts of North Dakota and northwestern parts of Minnesota. Pretty isolated scattered risk today, with the main threats being damaging winds, large hail, and with it so far north, with a jet stream this far north, an isolated tornado is not out the question. With it, overall storm risk still is possible for a good portion of the U.S. today. But the main threat today will obviously be the heat, and we're going to get into detail about how hot it could be in some areas coming up in just a few minutes. But once again, we have a storm risk possibly today over portions of northern North Dakota and northwestern Minnesota for the risk of mainly large hail with some of these storms. Here's a look at the extreme heat. It's going to be dangerously warm over a good portions of the middle of the country starting later on this week into portions of the weekend. It's going to be very dangerously hot over the next 6 to possibly 12 days over a good portions of the country. What we're dealing with is a pretty dominant ridge of high pressure, which is going to settle in over portions of the central to lower plains. And with this ridge in place, aloft, warm air aloft, we're going to deal with a big pocket of warm to very hot air over a good portion of the Midwest. These heat and these values, these pinks you see, are over 105 degrees. These little tan colors you see are 110. And then there's a bullseye over portions of, I'm going to draw a little circle so you maybe can see a little better. But there's a bullseye where I just put this red area that some of these areas could be talking about heat intensity values of over 115 to 120 as we head into, I believe this is around the Monday time frame. So we're getting to that time of, again, where you need to remember to keep in the back of your mind, what are you going to do if your air conditioner goes out? Make sure you check on your elderly neighbors. If you don't have an air conditioner, go to a public place, a library, a movie, anywhere to stay out this heat. It's going to be very dangerous over a good portion of the country during the next several days as this heat will begin to spread up to the east. Here's a look at the probability for the next several days of heat intensity values over 95 degrees. This red right here is a pretty significant chance, higher than 75% chance of becoming of heating these values over 95 degrees. So down all the way down to the Texas-Mexico border, all the way up to the Canadian border, where we're talking about dangerous heat intensity values over 95 degrees. Obviously, like I said, some of these areas could be flirting with possibly over maybe 110 to 115, maybe even 120 degrees for heat intensity values. Now, like I said, this heat, the bubble of high pressure, will spread off to the east, and the overall amount of heat will continue to expand. We're talking about portions of Georgia and the Carolinas and Florida and portions of the Mid-Atlantic dealing with this heat during the next several days afterwards. Here's a look. I skipped all the way to Friday, and this heat has not changed. This brown right here represents areas of 105 degrees. This dark red areas over 100. So you can see the area of 100 goes all the way up to Detroit, Chicago, just south of Milwaukee, portions of Iowa, Des Moines area, Omaha, Nebraska, all of Kansas, all of Texas, majority of Oklahoma, majority of Texas, all of Oklahoma. Arkansas is going to be dead ball in the heat, and then there's a big bullseye of areas possibly escalating over 110 degrees. Again, portion of the Carolinas and Virginia. Last week, the National Weather Service did determine that southern parts of Charleston County, which is around Charleston, South Carolina, heat intensity values over there are around 123 degrees. They recorded last week, so we could be dealing with potentially that again, with some areas exceeding record temperatures again with this dangerous heat. So once again, stay indoors if you do not have to go outside. Once again, this is going to be a very dangerous situation. Stay indoors. Do not go outside unless you're really necessary. If you have to go out, don't wear dark clothing. Try and drink plenty of fluids to stay hydrated during this heat. Just look at the Atlantic right now. You can see the Atlantic's pretty quiet once again this morning into the early afternoon hours. We're just dealing with some showers and thunderstorms with the front over portions of the Gulf Coast and to the southeast coastline. But where I see keeping an eye on potentially something in the southern parts of South Carolina and eastern parts of Georgia. There's a cluster of storms around a front which is dissipating front. And watching has a little bit of a cyclonic spin to it, so it's something we're keeping an eye on. And the National Hurricane Center also is keeping an eye on a disturbance in portions of Central America, an elongated trough right now of low pressure, but they are watching it for possible tropical cyclone development during the next several days in portions of the eastern Pacific. Here's a look at that system right now, a portion of the southeast coastline. You see, obviously, there is a good amount of shear with it, still dealing with some upper shear, but some models are beginning to pick up on potentially developing this into a low pressure system to the surface as it drifts slowly off to the west and southwest about 5 to 15 miles an hour. Could inhabit maybe some more rainfall over portions of southern Georgia and Florida, which I see won't be a bad thing because this area actually needs it. But right now, speaking of the short-term tropical development is not expected. The National Hurricane Center isn't even watching it, but we're going to continue to watch it as some of the forecast models are beginning to latch onto this idea. So once again, safely speaking, we're dealing with a massive heat wave over portions, once again, over portions of the Central Plains as we head into starting on Monday, and this will spread off to the east, which means many of these areas that I highlighted in this right here, where I highlighted it, are going to be dealing with this heat wave as we head into the next several days with heat intensity values over 105 to 110. But this area right here, I highlight in purple, is the area we're going to closely watch for the next several days, as this is where the most dangerous heat looks like it's going to lie at. And then as I head once again into the Friday time frame, spreads up to the east, or portion of the Carolinas, Georgia, and the Mid-Atlantic coastline, we'll be dealing with some very dangerous amounts of heat possibility as we head into the end of next week.